Streets of Rage. Streets of Rage. I don't know if anybody here. I'm with two people who probably have never heard of this video game. It is a.
But I know that I've seen the artwork for it before.
Okay, so when I first saw this, the point of this article was going to be that I was going to draw a comparison that I think that comic book adaptations, though Marvel is doing well, seem to be on the wane. As far as their marketability and popularity, the heavy hitters will remain heavy hitters, but there seems to be a law of diminishing returns at a certain point. But video game movies are going to hit their stride once somebody I read an article the other day that said how Sonic 2 and Uncharted cracked the code on video game movies. Because for every Halo that we see that sucks, that's a TV show, we could still if we're lucky, get a movie adaptation of a game that does well. And what I found is the ones that have the smallest amount of not lore, but Streets of Rage was only 3 main games in the 90s, and then there's a couple of comic books based on it, but it's not as super in-depth as something like Halo or The Last of Us, which is basically all cutscenes, right? There's a lot of there's a lot of cutscenes that make up the lore,
it's very
right?
narrative driven.
It's narrative driven. So these games, which are basically just fighting games, great fighting games, but I will point out that Streets of Rage 2 is considered one of the best video games ever. And they came out between, I think, 91 and 95 or something like that. I think there might have been a fourth one, but I never played it. It would have been on later systems. But I compared these two between Sonic and Streets of Rage because they're both Sega properties from that time period. So things that were great in the 90s, like fashion, are now becoming fashionable in movies and video games. So it says movies based on video games are nothing new, though they're much maligned by some. Many fondly remember movies from the 90s like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Super Mario Brothers. All 3 of those are great movies if you're if you want to watch something so bad it's good. All 3 of those are fantastic. Actually, Mortal Kombat's just a fairly decent action movie, but the Street Fighter movie is literally so bad you'll have the time of your life watching it. Watching Jean-Claude Van Damme try to be a U.S. with the thickest accent you've ever heard. He's very clearly not a U.S. soldier. It's incredible. So it says, however, with recent box office successes like that of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, they don't mention Uncharted, but Uncharted also did quite well, which had the best box office opening for a weekend video game movie ever. It is not surprising that studios are looking through the video game aisle for their next theatrical hit. What is surprising is that the latest game to receive a big screen adaptation is Streets of Rage, the 1991 Sega Genesis game about Wood Oak City police officers Adam Hunter, Axel Stone, and Blaze Fielding. By the way, all of those are incredible names, especially Blaze Fielding and Axel Stone. Might be the greatest names for a character ever. I would probably give my kid.
Kind of badass. Yeah.
So if your name is Axel Stone, you probably have to go into law enforcement or become a bouncer at a nightclub. So it says Mr. X's Electric Crime Syndicate. It says, they're trying to defeat Mr. X's Electric Crime Syndicate that seems to consist of ninjas, punks, and sex workers. Does this not sound like the greatest thing ever that you could make into a movie? This was Sega's answer to Nintendo's side-scrolling beat-em-up Double Dragons, which was widely regarded as a hit. Ninja Gaiden is also very good. Streets of Rage eventually found its fair share of successes as the franchise spawned 4 games, 3 comic book series, one of which was written by Kick-Ass and Kingsman, the Secret Service creator Mark Millar. Mark Millar is very talented. And several acclaimed soundtracks in some circles. I like that they're it's a little niche, but people like the soundtracks. I would like to know what is on those. The second game in the series is even regarded as one of the greatest video games of all time. And now that we keep having this discussion and talking about buying that game earlier, I think I'm going to have my dad send my Sega and my N64 out here. When we were talking earlier, just as an aside, I was I decided to impulse purchase a video game that I put off buying for quite a while just because I didn't have the money to buy it before. But I bought Tony Hawk 3 for N64,
which that's so funny.
There wasn't a lot of it was one of the last. It was right at the tail end of the N64 run, so it was a lot harder to find copies of it. So yes, I impulse purchased that earlier. I said buyed earlier. I impulse bought.
I buyed it.
I buyed it.
You're really regressing.
Yes,
right
I
now.
am.
Going back in time.
It's the show, man. It's driving me nuts. The second, okay, so it says, despite its story having very little depth, a feature film adaptation is on the way, but the movie should be more focused on the kick-ass fight scenes rather than the complex plot. It seems like the project has found the perfect person to pen the script. So this is what I want. This is what I meant. The less lore, the less backstory there is for the studios to F up, the better off they are making these adaptations.
I agree.
When their eventual, their creatives come in and they're like, I want to put my spin on it. It will be less offensive to have them put their spin on Axel Stone and the sex worker crime syndicate than it is if there's 15 years of lore or 20 years of lore like Halo has, and then they just go around changing things that have nothing to do with the game.
Do you think because it's the 90s they can use the word prostitute instead of sex workers? That's very of the moment.
Yes, I'm hoping that they use the word. They'll probably. Depends
how
on
vintage are we getting here?
Yes.
When you're converting a video game into a movie, you're taking a theoretically active piece of media into a passive piece of media. Instead of like with comics and novels, you're doing passive to passive. And I think that could be a good thing, especially without all the lore. The Last of Us thing is doomed.
Yes,
from the start.
I mean, to me, like
they already screwed it up with the second one, but there's too much existing story that it was already pretty much a movie that you just like interacted with at some points.
Dane had more hope for it than we did. He's
I don't know why.
He's less beat down on the idea than we were of like, they're like, I'm like, he's already talking about making it his own character.
Don't even get your hopes up.
Oh my God, they're
This
doing it
thing's
again.
badass.
Now, one of the things about they're doing this is the guy in charge is Derek Kolstad, who created the John Wick franchise, which he built from nothing and proves that if you want to be successful these days and you want to build something on your own, you're going to have more luck building on your own than trying to turn something that's already been done into another form of media, like you said. So if Derek Kolstad is going to make it very similar to John Wick, which is extremely visually fanciful and brutal. I don't know if you guys have had occasion to watch any of those movies, but
I have not.
Very, very brutal, very, very violent, which is right in line with what Streets of Rage would be. And very those movies, all three of them are known for their heavily escalating levels of graphic violence in each. Like the fight scenes become more and more elaborate in every movie. My favorite part being like when he gets like a horse to just kick a dude in the head. Like it starts out as just knife violence, shooting people in that. Like half the movie is him shooting people in the head from ridiculous distances that you could never shoot somebody in the head with a handgun. But it grows, like all the set pieces become more and more over the top, and that feels like that would be perfect for this type of kind of surrealist. It's gritty and real, but it's also like it's a guy named Mr. X who runs a crime syndicate. How real can you really be? Is
this going to be a movie for kids or adult audiences?
Kolstad's probably PG. My hope would be that they would make it rated R, but I don't know if that's put it this way. There's no like Sonic gets a PG rating because there's still kids that love Sonic. No kid that's
no one
growing
knows
up right now
Streets of Rage
gives a crap
anymore,
about Streets of Rage unless they were to make it into something modern.
Did you call it a line game? Is that what you called it?
It's side scrolling, but it's
Side-scrolling?
it's so
does
it's
that
like
mean?
it means it's a
side-scrolling.
single camera and you just follow them as they go.
The last one I remember of that is Cuphead.
Yeah,
But the rest of the games that are popular right now, it seems like they're all these emotional stories, mainly about children.
I don't want emotional stories. I just want to watch a guy named Axel decapitate a bad guy.
And I appreciate that.
Yes.
As you describe this, I'm kind of like picturing the like Jason Bourne movies. It's sort of like inner city, what appears to be buff, slightly taekwondo-ish figures.
Yeah, that's the bit. There's generic bad guys and there's ninjas. Why are they working together? We have no idea.
Because it was the 90s and ninjas were cool.
Ninja Turtle. Like, why was there a band like the Ninja Turtles? Why was the Foot Clan a thing where they just got to be a bunch of ninjas who commit crimes? Nobody knows. But it was a great
You were
time.
just like into it. It was cool.
Yeah,
It reminds me of like the Power Rangers, which like I know it's originally from like Japan or whatever,
Yeah.
but like in the States, we were like, we gotta leave that in for authenticity, and it never really made sense because we don't randomly have like
I would love
trained ninjas running around.
But
as
we
far as I
should.
know. I mean,
But we should.
We should. Yeah.
I mean,
make that a thing.
It says, according to Deadline, Sonic the Hedgehog producer DJ2 Entertainment and escape artists of the Equalizer franchise have tapped Derek Kolstad to write the upcoming adaptation of Streets of Rage, while he will co-executive producer of Marvel's Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the writer of Bob Odenkirk's action film Nobody. Kolstad is best known for creating the John Wick franchise, which, with a resume like that, the script for Streets of Rage couldn't be in better hands. Kolstad can certainly hold his own when it comes to action movies. He does a great job with taking a very small premise and fleshing it out with details in an effective, meaningful, and succinct way without bogging it down with off-the-wall action. The action in the John Wick franchise actually absolutely becomes more off the wall, but that's because the guy he worked with in that movie, Chad Stahelski, is a director, but he came from stunt coordinator. He was a stunt coordinator first and then became a director. So you can see that the movies are designed around somebody who wants to make these incredible action set pieces that have very little CGI. Like one of the things the franchise is very known for is like very minimal cutting between camera angles, so what they're seeing on screen is actually happening. Keanu Reeves is like in his 50s and has to do like all these action scenes. You just feel awful for him because it's like, how is he still in good enough shape to do that? But he is. So I would like to see this movie get done and just be bloody, violent, and do not try to make it anything deeper than it needs to be. Just have a dude named Axel going around and just killing bad guys because he leaves the police department. I found
cool.
I did find, because I was curious about, because I hadn't read the Mark Millar comics, I was curious as to like what that was about. It says the 2015 crossover game. Oh no! Okay, so 3 6-part series based on the games appeared in the Sonic the Comic. That's another connection between the two. So Sonic's comic book adaptation contained a Streets of Rage story, so you could compare the two there. So it says in the early 90s, along with several other adaptations of Sega franchises. The first 2 of these were written by Mark Millar, while the third was with a poster was written by Nigel Kitching. These 3 stories alternate continuity from the games and do not feature Adam. So it says the first story, entitled simply Streets of Rage, involved Axel, Blaze, and Max quitting the highly corrupt police force in order to do good as vigilantes, taking down Max's ex-partner, the crime lord and martial artist Hawk. I also like that you can be both a crime lord and a martial artist. That is good. It means you get a cool costume to go with your evilness, and that's what we want. So it says, the next serial, Skate story, introduced Skate's delinquent stepson of Murphy, a friend of Axel and his team, one of the few honest cops left in the force, who was unwillingly drawn into joining Axel's group after his stepfather was killed by Mr. X. So these are all stories that have basic premises that you could take and then build upon that don't need to be insulting to they'll probably gender swap a bunch of characters. Axel will probably be a girl who will be...
I feel like the poster makes it look like they've got everyone we need, right?
That's all you need.
There's a lady, there's a regular looking guy, and there's like... I don't want to make assumptions, but a person
None
of color.
them look regular. I wouldn't say that.
Sure.
But they're all big and buff and awesome, and that's what we
Yeah.
want. We don't want normal looking people, so...
No more realistic body standards. We need extra buff men.
Well, that's what's one of the problems that I always have with when they talk about... in comics, first of all, the men are never you're never allowed to insult the men can never be average looking.
Yeah.
They always have to have like a 12-pack and have muscles on muscles, whereas the women, it can be like, these are unrealistic beauty standards. Like, you think Superman
goes
is what
both ways,
you think
you know?
Superman looks like most dudes? Are you kidding me? He's got muscles in places where literally no muscles can go. But
do you know that there's data that says that on dating apps, fewer women use them? So, as a result, men who are considered more attractive often like match and pursue women who are considered less attractive because the female pool is smaller.
yeah.
And I feel like that's sort of like what happens with our body positivity culture. We're like, we just don't have time to deal with how we treat men. Like, it's really about women and the standards we have for them.
Yep, that's what it's all
That's
about.
how we measure beauty. And it's kind of funny, but sad at the same time.
So I don't want to see normal looking people playing these roles.
Let's hope
I
that-
want just
Yeah.
steroid filled
Is that a requirement for being cast? They
Yes.
take
They have
steroids?
Well,
to just CGI
yeah.
all of the muscles onto them.
We never covered it, but there was like this great article where like Nicolas Cage said he gave up on playing Ghost Rider when like there was articles coming out saying he faked his abs in Ghost Rider, and he's like, He's like, I don't work out when I do my movies anymore. They're just gonna lie about me anyways. So
If you had to be in a movie and you had the option of having CGI abs or real life abs, which would you do?
You need to get real life abs and get them CGI enhanced.
yes, that's you do
That's
the
the deal.
original.
That
you,
wasn't my question.
you
Would you be tempted to
It's a
not
both
work out
and.
at all just because you could CGI it?
that I'm kind of
You're gonna deep fake your abs.
Yes, yeah, that's what we'll do.
It's an ethical question.
It is not. I say just depends on how busy you are, right? How big? Do I have the time? Like the actors.
I really like snacks, so I don't really
Exactly.
want to.
I don't know if I can give up the snacks, but I am not like Michael B. Jordan like does like or like like Henry Cavill would always like they would release his workouts that he would do to get into shape for Superman. I'm like, how does he have enough time in the day?
The thing is, when your job is to look pretty and perfect,
Exactly.
your workout becomes like you going to a staff call. You
Mm.
know, like
And Marvel has like contracts, like they have to put on a certain amount of muscle to be able to play that character.
it's the same thing in modeling. I mean, like there are requirements for how you wear your hair, and like if you cut your hair, all of a sudden your agency can drop you because it can
That's
mess up with
insane.
you. How yeah. Also maintaining your figure and your measurements and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it's the same thing for actors. It's just like we said before, male actors are expected to have a very masculine body type most of the time,
Yep.
and that's not. Sometimes that's true for women. Sometimes that's not.
We will see. We'll see where this goes, but I say Streets of Rage is a plus for me. I'm giving it a thumbs up. I want to see it.
When does it come out?
No, this was just announced, so no. They're just that Derek
So
Cole
5
said.
years from now,
Probably about 5 years from now. You're right.
if we're going based off of Ezra Miller's track record,
We gotta hope
maybe
that
10 years. If we live that long,
if they don't
How long
hire
does it take
Ezra
them
Miller,
to get Halo out of here?
I have
like,
no idea.
I feel like that's been in production.
Halo was in production for a long,
at
long
least
time.
6 years. I feel
Yeah.
like.
I don't know. That was those are all production hell projects though, like where they've been trying to get it made. Like Uncharted that just came out, that was the same thing. They've been trying to get Uncharted made for ages and it took forever. So
Did you go see it?
we did.
Did you like it?
No,
didn't see
she
it.
was this was a while back. This is it was
I've
good.
only watched
I liked it a
I
lot.
feel
Years
like
of
it's still in the
Uncharted.
theaters.
It still is.
How long do movies stay in the theaters for?
That varies depending on the studio.
does it
what's
depend
an
on how
average?
well it's doing in the theater too?
Like Spider-Man was up for like 17 or 18 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They was still in there when it went to PVOD.
But like, give me an average here, team. Like 2 months, 3 months.
2 months. I don't want to say a number then be wrong, but it feels like 2
No,
months.
say a number and then be wrong.
No, that's
2 months.
4 to 6
you go.
weeks. I know the Batman just came out on HBO Max today or yesterday. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.